Right now, if you had breakfast a few hours ago, there is a decent chance you are a little foggy. Maybe you have told yourself it is the sleep. Maybe you have told yourself it is the job, or the meeting, or just Mondays. But somewhere deep in the middle of your brain, there is a tiny cluster of cells, fewer of them than the number of people in a large lecture hall, and your breakfast just switched a good chunk of them off. They have a name. You have probably never heard it. And once you know what they do, you are never going to look at a bowl of cereal the same way again. Here is what I want you to actually notice today. The exact hour your energy drops. Not tomorrow. Today. Do you hit a wall around 10 or 11 in the morning, no matter how much sleep you got the night before? Do you find yourself reaching for a second coffee before lunch just to feel like a functioning person? Have you ever wondered why a big breakfast leaves you sleepier than skipping breakfast entirely? I spent a few weeks logging my own energy, hour by hour, against exactly what I would eat in that morning, and the pattern that showed up was not subtle. It was not about willpower. It was not about sleep debt. It started the moment food hit my stomach, and it was happening on a schedule you could set a clock to. Here is what is actually happening inside your brain. That cluster of cells I mentioned lives in a region called the lateral hypothalamus, and they are called orexin neurons. You will also see them labeled hypocretin neurons in older research. Neuroscientist Denis Berdukov has spent a large part of his career studying exactly what makes these cells fire, and one of the core findings out of that line of research is almost embarrassingly simple. Orexin neurons are glucose sensitive. When your blood sugar rises, a share of these neurons get quieter. Not gradually, but fast, within minutes. And orexin neurons are not some minor background player. They are one of the primary systems keeping you awake, alert, and motivated to get up and move. Turn a chunk of them down, and the lights dim in your head, even while you are sitting up with your eyes wide open. Weird, right? A brain cell that runs on sugar getting shut off by sugar. Here is where it gets stranger. Orexin neurons do not only control wakefulness. The same cells also drive the urge to get up and go find food in the first place. So the exact system that pulled you out of bed toward the kitchen is the same system your breakfast then switches off. It is a closed loop. Get hungry, get moving, find food, eat, go quiet. Under evolutionary pressure, that loop made sense. After a meal, resting and digesting kept you safer than sprinting around a savanna on a full stomach. Your ancestors were not opening a laptop at 10 a.m. You are. Now add insulin to the picture, because it is not acting alone here. Every time you eat carbohydrate, your pancreas releases insulin from clusters of cells called beta cells, and insulin's job is to shuttle glucose out of your bloodstream and into your muscles, liver, and fat tissue by opening glucose transporters on the surface of those cells. A typical fasting blood sugar sits somewhere around 70 to 100 milligrams per deciliter. A slow-digesting meal might nudge that up by 20 or 30 points, gently, over an hour. A fast-digesting one can push it up 60, 70, sometimes more, in a fraction of the time, and the steeper the fall that follows, often landing your blood sugar below where you started. Orexin neurons are watching that entire roller coaster in real time, second by second. A slow, modest rise barely registers with them. A sharp spike from a bowl of sugary cereal or a glass of orange juice hits those neurons like someone yanking a dimmer switch halfway down in the middle of your morning. Here is the part that is easy to miss. It is not the height of the spike alone that matters, it is the speed of the fall. Your body does not just tolerate a slow return to baseline. Orexin neurons barely react to it. It is the fast drop, the one your pancreas causes by overcorrecting for a sugar flood, that reads to your brain as an emergency worth quieting down for. There is a second pathway running in parallel, and it is just as strange as the first. Back in the 1970s, MIT researchers John Fernstrom and Richard Wertman mapped out how carbohydrate-heavy meals reshape brain chemistry within the hour. Insulin does not only clear glucose out of your blood, it also clears out several competing amino acids, which leaves more room for one particular amino acid, tryptophan, to cross the blood-brain barrier through a shared transporter. Once tryptophan gets inside, your brain converts it into serotonin, and serotonin is a direct chemical precursor to melatonin, a hormone whose entire job is telling your body it is time to wind down for sleep. So a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast does not just spike your blood sugar. It quietly nudges your own brain chemistry toward a hormone built for sleepiness hours before bedtime. And then there is a third mechanism, and this one is mechanical rather than chemical. Eating triggers your vagus nerve to shift your body into what is often called rest and digest mode, redirecting a noticeable share of your blood flow toward your gut. A shift researchers call the splanchnic circulation response to help absorb everything you just ate. And that is blood, and the oxygen and glucose it is carrying that is not going to your prefrontal cortex in that moment. Picture your body like a house running on one shared electrical circuit. Digestion just became the appliance pulling the most current. Somewhere else in the house, the alertness circuits upstairs. The lights get a little dimmer, not off, dimmer. Put all three together. The Orson dimer switch, the insulin roller coaster, the tryptophan to melatonin pipeline, and the blood flow pulled towards your gut, and you get exactly what you feel by mid-morning. Heavy eyelids, foggy focus, and an urge to lie down that has nothing to do with how well you slept the night before. Your breakfast did not just fuel you. It sends your brain a chemical instruction to power down on a schedule almost nobody's ever explained to you. I tested this on myself for about 3 weeks because I wanted to know if it was really as clean as the research suggested. For the first week, I eat my normal breakfast. A bowl of cereal, a glass of orange juice, a pastry on the days I was running late, rated my energy on a simple 1 to 10 scale every hour from 8 a.m. to noon. My average dropped from about a 7 at 8 a.m. to a 3 by 10:30 a.m. almost every single day. For the next 2 weeks, I swapped in eggs, a handful of nuts, and berries instead of the juice and cereal. Protein and fat first, most of the fast sugar removed. My 8 a.m. number barely changed, but my 10:30 a.m. number climbed from a 3 up to a steady 6 or 7 for 12 straight days in a row. Same sleep, same job, same commute. The only variable I changed was what hit my bloodstream first each morning. So why do some breakfasts crash you harder than others? There are 5 specific reasons, and once you see them, you will start spotting them on your own plate. Reason number 1 is glycemic load. Essentially, how fast a food turns into blood sugar. White bread, sugary cereal, and pastries convert to glucose almost as fast as spooning sugar directly into your mouth, because there is so little fat, fiber, or protein around to slow digestion down. A slow-digesting breakfast, like eggs with vegetables, releases glucose gradually, so orexin neurons barely notice the change. A fast-digesting one floods your bloodstream in 15 to 20 minutes flat, and the dimmer switch gets hit hard and fast. Research on glycemic index and daily energy, including work by psychologist David Benton at Swansea University, has repeatedly linked high glycemic meals to bigger dips in alertness and mood later that same morning. Same calories. Very different 2 hours later. Reason number 2 is what is missing from the plate, not just what is on it. Protein and fiber both slow gastric emptying, the rate food actually leaves your stomach, which flattens the glucose curve on both ends, the rise and the fall. A breakfast that is almost pure carbohydrate, with nothing acting as a brake, produces a taller spike and a deeper crash. Same total sugar, released like water through a wide-open valve, instead of a narrow one. Reason number 3 is liquid sugar, specifically juice, sweetened coffee, and smoothies. Skip the mechanical digestion your stomach normally does to break down solid food, so the sugar hits your bloodstream even faster than the same sugar eaten in solid form. A glass of orange juice can spike blood glucose nearly as quickly as sugar dissolved in water, even though it feels far healthier than a donut on the label. Reason number 4 is portion size. A large breakfast does not just mean more sugar going in, it means more total digestion, which means a bigger and longer pull on the blood flow I mentioned earlier, the share being redirected toward your gut. Bigger meal, bigger vagal response, longer dip in blood flow to the brain. It is a big part of why a large weekend brunch can leave you wanting a nap by early afternoon far more reliably than a smaller weekday breakfast ever does. Reason number 5 is caffeine timing, and this one surprised me the most. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine, a completely separate sleepiness signal from the one we have been talking about, so it can mask the orexin dip for a while. But it does not stop the dip from happening. When the caffeine wears off around the same time your blood sugar bottoms out, both systems land on you at once, which is exactly why the 10:30 a.m. crash after a coffee and pastry breakfast can feel so much steeper than the crash after skipping the coffee. The slow-digesting breakfast kept energy steady 4 hours. The fast-digesting breakfast spiked, dropped, and left you reaching for more sugar just to feel normal again. Same morning, same body, completely different biology underneath. Once you know the mechanism, the mistakes are easy to spot, and so are the fixes. Mistake number 1 is treating juice like a health food because it is natural. Natural does not mean slow. Juicing strips out the fiber that would have slowed the sugar down, so your body ends up treating it almost like a soft drink. Mistake number 2 is eating your carbohydrates first, before anything else on the plate. Researchers at Weill Cornell Medicine, led by Alpana Shukla, tracked what happens when the exact same meal is eaten in a different order: vegetables and protein first, starches and sugar last, and found meaningfully smaller blood sugar spikes when the carbs came last, instead of first. Same food, same total calories, different curve, just from changing the order you pick up your fork. Mistake number 3 is skipping breakfast entirely to dodge the crash. That does not remove the problem, it just relocates it. Your orexin neurons and blood sugar are still going to interact with the first real meal of the day, whenever it happens, and an empty stomach walking into a heavy lunch often produces the same spike and crash pattern a few hours later instead. Mistake number 4, leaning on caffeine to power through the fog instead of addressing what is actually causing it. Caffeine handles the adenosine side of tiredness. It does nothing for the glucose side. You end up needing more coffee, more often, just to hold the same line. Here is how to actually fix it, step by step. Step 1. Put protein on the plate before anything else: eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, something in the 20 to 30 gram range that slows the whole digestive process down. Step 2. If there is fruit or toast on the plate, eat it last, not first. That one small ordering change is doing more work than most people realize. Step 3. Swap liquid sugar for whole fruit, or drop the juice for a week and just watch what happens to your late morning energy. Whole fruit keeps its fiber. Juice does not. Step 4. Shrink the portion of refined carbohydrates specifically. Not the whole meal, just the white bread, the pastry, the sugary cereal, and let protein and fiber fill in the extra space. Step 5. If you drink coffee, drink it with food, not on an empty stomach, so you are not asking one chemical system to quietly cover for another. This is not just a breakfast quirk. It connects to something considerably bigger. Orexin neurons do not only control morning grogginess, they are the same cells implicated in narcolepsy, a condition where people fall asleep suddenly and uncontrollably during the day. When Masashi Yen Agesawa's lab at the University of Texas Southwestern first identified orexin neurons in 1998, and later research tied their near-total loss to narcolepsy, it became clear these cells are one of the central pillars holding up daytime wakefulness for everyone, not just people with a diagnosed sleep disorder. You almost certainly do not have narcolepsy, but every one of us is running the same system, just with a full, healthy population of these cells intact, which means an ordinary breakfast can nudge the very same dial that, at its most extreme, defines an entire disorder. There is a longer arc here too. Sharp glucose spikes, repeated morning after morning, do not just cost you an hour of focus today. Over months and years, that pattern is linked to insulin resistance, the state where your cells stop responding well to insulin's signal in the first place. And insulin resistance does not stay confined to blood sugar. It is tied to how consistently hungry you feel through the day, how stable your mood is by the afternoon, and even how well you sleep that same night, which loops right back around to how your orexin system behaves the next morning. Your breakfast today is talking to a system that is still listening tomorrow. It also lines up with timing you did not choose. Your body already has a natural cortisol surge in the first half hour or so after waking, sometimes called the cortisol awakening response, which is part of what gets you upright and alert before you have eaten anything at all. A high glycemic breakfast lands right in the middle of that window and, for a lot of people, ends up working against it. Cortisol pushing alertness up, while the glucose crash pulls it back down 30 minutes later. You are not imagining that some mornings feel like a tug of war. Some mornings, biologically, they are one. So here is the simple version, if you want to try this starting tomorrow. Step 1. Protein first. Eggs, yogurt, cottage cheese, whatever gets you into that 20+ gram range. Step 2. Carbs and sugar last, not first, even within the same meal. Step 3. Whole fruit instead of juice. Step 4. A smaller portion of anything refined, white bread, pastries, sweetened cereal. Step 5. Coffee with food, not instead of it. That is the whole protocol. 5 small order of operations changes. No new supplements, no overhaul. Quick recap. Orexin neurons dimming as glucose rises. Insulin's roller coaster. Tryptophan sliding into serotonin, then melatonin. Blood flow pulled towards your gut. 5 specific breakfast mistakes. 5 specific fixes. One tiny switch, deep in your hypothalamus, quietly deciding how the next 4 hours of your morning go. If this finally explained a fog you had been blaming on bad sleep for years, hit like so more people run into this video instead of another Just Get More Sleep article, and subscribe to Feynman Decoded. This channel exists to dig up the actual mechanism behind the things your body does every single day. Try the reorder tomorrow morning and tell me in the comments what your 10:30 a.m. felt like. And send this to the one person in your life who swears they are just tired lately, the parent who skips breakfast entirely, the coworker running on a bagel and 3 coffees, whoever needs to hear this today. For many people, breakfast composition may play a significant role in late morning energy levels, but it is only one of several factors, alongside sleep, stress, activity, and underlying health conditions. Medical disclaimer. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Individual responses to food vary. If you have diabetes, hypoglycemia, another medical condition, or take medications that affect blood sugar, consult a qualified healthcare professional before making significant dietary changes.